Welcome back for another book review. Today we are talking about this one. So this is Witch in the Kitchen, Magical Cooking for All Seasons by Cait Johnson. Now, a lot of you had asked about this book. You were pretty excited about it in the TBR video that I did. And so this one is very interesting. So there's a little bit at the beginning of the book about making a magical space in your kitchen. It includes things like making a magical apron, customizing your items, like, like your wooden spoons and stuff. It also has some stuff of like connecting with like your appliances, which felt a little woo to me. But like, if that's something you need to do, cool, it's got it for you. Personally, I've never really felt like my oven or my fridge was this alien thing in my house. They're quite convenient to have, but I guess maybe other people haven't thought about that. Having gone like camping and stuff where like you have to cook on a stove, as in a fire with like a little thing on top of it to put whatever you're cooking on, or to like not have a fridge and like you have a cooler and that's it, and how like prevalent those things are. Maybe some people haven't connected with their appliances before and that would be helpful. So the other thing is that it also talks about having like some sort of altar in your kitchen, and specifically it said to have a kitchen witch altar and to have like some sort of like a figure, whether it's a goddess, but they also talked about having like a specific like witch figure. I don't know. If you want to do that kind of thing, cool. It also talks about like some certain things, like if you burn candles or incense or something, to help when you're doing your kitchen stuff. But that was kind of about it for the feeling like this was like a magical like kitchen witchery book. Other than that, it just felt like your average cooking things. They were just more themed to the seasons. Now, the thing with the recipes in here is that it is not stuff I personally would like. There is so many of these recipes that are not things I personally enjoy. So for example, there's a lot of like squash stuff, like butternut squash and different things, and like making like a savory pumpkin soup. I don't love those. And there was a lot of that. And it just felt very health conscious is the best way to put this. The author is vegetarian and most of the recipes are vegan. And I've been there, I've done that. I want cheese, heavy cream, and sugar. Actual sugar to use in a lot of recipes would be great. Because there are plenty of recipes that's like, oh, but you add apple, so that's the sweetener. And you're like, that's not sweetened, really though. Like, there was just some of the things, and if you've ever been like vegan or vegetarian, you know those recipes. They forget what food tastes like. And a lot of these kind of felt like that. And it was just stuff that I'm like, no. And like some of them, like there was one I remember that you make like a tart, and the innards, it was like 9 cups of kale or spinach or some other like deep green. And I think there was like some seasonings with it, but that was the bulk of it. And I'm like, that sounds so gross. No, thank you. Like there's a lot of stuff that I don't like. And it has one for like adding asparagus, but a lot of them, it was like kale or spinach or like collards. Like there was just a lot of those. Not my thing. There's also so many salads, and the dressings were all kind of the same. It's basically some form of a vinaigrette where you have an oil base, and then you add in vinegar and a couple of like seasonings of whatever for the specific thing. If that's something you like and that's what you're interested in and that's how you want to cook, awesome. This is great for you. However, they're not recipes I would personally try or want to do. There's only a couple, and the rest of them, it was either meh to why. Like there was one that it was like a sweet potato apple something, and you're getting the sweet from the apple and the sweet potato, and all I could think of was the scene from Bob's Burgers where Linda tried to make like a sweet potato pie and she didn't have a lot of ingredients, and she's like, well, I didn't add sugar because like it's in the name, it's a sweet potato. And that was the thing that I was picturing as I was looking at the recipe. Because like sugar is not the enemy. And even then, like some of the other ones where you do add a sweetener, it's like add maple syrup or add like honey, and it's like, oh yep, that is reminiscent of the vegan days. Of course, honey is not necessarily vegan, but that kind of an energy to your cooking, far more in that realm. And I'm like, I have left that for a reason. Oh my. So if you like that kind of cooking, you will love this. If you want more like savory, comfy foods, this is definitely not it. Now, the thing about this book is it really did feel like it went hand in hand with the last one I just talked about. And of course, she was a contributor to the previous book. She just mentioned it here and there. And so I do think you should read the other one first and then this one, where that one didn't have like a whole lot of recipes. This is like the recipes that would go along with the previous book. I think it was like Celebrating the Great Mother or something like that. That book, it mentions stuff from there quite frequently of like, oh, well, you need to do this at Samhain and you're doing this. And like it mentions that book like once or twice. This feels like it's the secondary book to that of like the recipes to go along with it. And just more to possibly do during the year of different cooking things. Again, not a whole lot of them I was like, oh, I should totally do this. Like, it's not my personal cooking style. So if that's something that you're not sure about, you might want to glance at some of the recipes before you pick up a copy. And again, if you know that you don't really like the more health style, where it's a lot of, like, there's not any like prepackaged foods that you're buying. And there's not a lot of like cheese and heavy cream and stuff like that that you're adding to your soups and stuff to make them creamy and yummy. It's more so just here's a hunk of vegetables and vegetable broth. Or there was like one where you literally, you take a pear, and I cracked up laughing when I read about it because it literally said something along the lines of like you need to have foreplay with your pear before you cook it. And I think it was in the built-in. No, I don't even think it was in the built-in section because I think I made a comment to my husband that it felt more appropriate in that section. But it was weird. It was real weird. And then you just bake a pear. That's it. Like I think you might have wrapped it in like tin foil and you cooked it for like 45 minutes and that was it. And I'm like, you know, I feel like there's like more that we could do for a recipe. This feels really, really weird, but whatever. It's just stuff like that it was just like, no, not for me. And the section on Beltane, as per usual, most of the time is extremely disheartening, and it fit the bill for that one. There's so much reference for body parts, and that it's all about sex and sensuality and how everyone feels that way. And it's like, that's cool. I know it's not a lot of people in the community. I know we're like a minority of a minority of a minority of a minority. But listen, there's gotta be more than just me who is ace and a witch. There's gotta be more than just me. I'm sure there is. And I'm sure there's people that don't want that kind of imagery and that focus for whatever reasons, whether it's just personal preference or if something's happened to them, like they don't want that imagery constantly. There is so much more to Beltane than just sex. That's one of the things that sucks, is this book really pushes that narrative, and it's just, again, it's one of those things that it's just disheartening, and it's like, really? One thing I should mention is this book isn't aimed at kids like the previous one was. This is definitely just more like anyone who's going to be cooking. So it does go into a lot more of those kinds of details and talks about having like certain tools and things that are extremely explicit. Like having a Sheila McGig in your kitchen and having that be a conversation starter and you're like, oh my, oh my. And if you don't know what that is, I highly recommend you go look that up and find out for yourself, because it's a magical journey if you didn't know what it was. So anyways, overall, if you are into like goddess work specifically, and you're not, like, there really isn't much for the god, so it's really like the goddess centered, like kind of more Wiccan path, this might be helpful for you. If you need some recipe ideas, especially of like soups and like more healthy options, this would be great for you. It does have a lot of recipes, and again, if you want more health conscious ones and not as much processed foods, and definitely leaning really vegan, there's a handful that aren't, but for the most part, a lot of them are vegan or very easily veganized, and not just vegan add in like a vegan cheese, like straight vegan, like the healthy vegan versions. There is a lot in here. I've moved away from that diet, so it wasn't terribly helpful for me, but it might be helpful for you. And there are a couple that I will be trying myself, but just not a lot of them. So I'm curious if other people have tried the recipes in here and if you enjoyed them or not. I don't know that I would ever do like the recipe reviews of this full book, because I do have a channel that I do that occasionally, but I don't know if I would for all of these. If it's something you're interested in, let me know. But I kind of feel like I'll make a couple here and there, and that's about it. So anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. Huge thank you to my patrons. I'll have their names here on the screen. If you'd like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like and subscribe. I post every single day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.